I want to talk about Gavin Harrison, because obviously fantastic, not this Gavin Harrison here, different Gavin Harrison. But when he joined the band, obviously, like if I think about his playing, it's obviously amazing, but he's got a really, really great way of shifting the beat and playing in odd time signatures, but almost implying that there is an odd time signature when there isn't an odd time signature going on. When he joined the band, was that something that he started doing straight away? And as a bass player, because you're locked with the drums, how did that initially feel and how has that developed over the years?
Well, it was quite an interesting thing because Chris Maitland, who came before Gavin, had a very different kind of style.
Yeah.
In some ways the change was really different, and in some ways it was very similar. But Gavin definitely, he didn't start doing all that straight away. Because initially he was working on, the older stuff with us.
Yeah.
When we went out and played, we were playing the older stuff. And then we were also working on the new album, which by the time he came for an album called In Absentia, and by the time he came on board, it was all, we kind of worked it up to the point where we were going to record it. So he really just came in for the recording sessions.
Yeah.
But in the recording sessions, I mean, he'd had a lot of experience. He wasn't very well known at the time. I knew him because he was actually a friend of Martin Elliott.
Oh, right, got you.
So I knew him from years before. And even before that, I'd seen him play just in a pub, with playing jazz. And he was great even then.
Yeah.
But he got into this rhythmic illusion business, which is quite...
The book, Rhythmic Illusions, I think he's actually got a book called Rhythmic Illusions.
Books, yeah. Well, it's for anyone who doesn't know, I'll sort of explain it. Basically, if you have bush, bash, but bass drum, snare drum, boom, cha. If you hear that, you're always going to hear 1, 2, 3, 4. You can't help but hear that, right?
Yeah.
But he will play that all moved along, say a 16th.
Yeah, he'll move the entire thing, just 1/16.
And it's not hard to play, but it's mentally.
Yeah.
You're so used to hearing it the other way. So that's a very brief example of it. And he will be able to imply that the time is somewhere else. I mean, you could say it's a mathematical idea.
Yeah.
Which it is, I guess. But the trick is to try and use it in a musical way, which I think, when we had ideas like that going on the records, I think it does. You're not sitting there counting the beats,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you're just trying to find the groove. For you, did you just kind of have to sort of like really lock down in your mind where the one was? Were you just thinking, right, that's...
I definitely had to do a bit of work on my accuracy and stuff when it came to playing with Gavin, because his style was much more accurate than Chris.
Yeah.
Chris is a real energy rock drummer.
Yeah.
So it's this kind of full-on thing, and it worked in a different way with Chris. I started to think a lot more about some of the ideas. But actually, as it happens, I've always been fascinated by odd time signatures.
Have you? Is that something that you've always been into?
Yeah.
Yeah. It always fascinated me, and I can date that back to listening to Ivo Papasov. Ivo Papasov, yeah?
Yeah.
Bulgarian clarinet player. We used to get random albums out of the library when I was a kid, and there was...
Man, I haven't heard the name for years. That's bizarre. Blast from the past, yeah.
Right, but it was like this weird shit. We'd never heard anything like that before. And it was just a curiosity thing. But when I actually sat and listened to it, you'd think, it sounds like they're all drunk,
Yeah.
You count it, you realise maybe they're playing in 9 or something.
Yeah.
And of course, it's really fast. So, but then I started to think, well, this is Bulgarian folk music.
Yeah.
But it's natural to these people.
Yeah, they just feel that.
Yeah, they're not sitting there studying it for years. It's their traditional music. They come from that tradition. So I got really interested in that. I mean, Bulgarians are no more or less musical than we are, but they have this influence going on that shapes them in a different way. And that whole idea really got me thinking,
Yeah, if we'd been listening to, like music, if every pop song that you listened to was in 9/8, we'd feel 9/8 really, really great. We'd be great. We'd be great at it. Yeah, but it's just what your influences are. Well, not what your influences are, but what's just you hear continuously as you're growing up. I suppose just sort of like seeps in, doesn't it?
Yeah, and I had listened already to. I wasn't really a big listener of the sort of classic prog rock at all.
Yeah.
But I used to listen to things like Gong and Magma and those kind of bands.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of that going on in Gong, especially some of that stuff, you know. So it didn't feel too weird for me, but it was weird enough for me to want to really investigate it.
So did you know when Gavin Harrison was coming into the band, did you know that was going to be part of it? Did you think, yes, this is going to be great?
No, I didn't think that. I just knew that he would do a good job.
Yeah.
Initially, you know, when we were doing the album, we were under quite a lot of pressure to do it in time, to finish it in time. So we had a bit of time pressure, and we had it's a big thing. It's a big difference in, it's kind of hard to explain, but we'd spent ages doing the band our way, if you like.
Yeah.
On a small label and progressively a slightly bigger label, and then suddenly it's like, well, we've got to go to America. We've got to really put in the commitment. So that's a little bit sort of scary, at the time. You know, you're casting out all your other commitments in a way and just following that one path.
When it turns into a business, when it's like
pretty much
the band's a business, and
we're getting a lot of financial input from the American label, which doesn't happen now in the same way. But in return, you know, we can't go, well, let's not do that gig, you know, or let's not do this tour. You know, we had to kind of commit to what we were being asked to do. That's the bargain. So. Initially, my first thought was that I knew Gavin would do a fantastic job on the album, and then what followed that was a whole load of gigs in America that weren't so fun. And there was a lot of work and a lot of travel and stuff, but you know, we got through that.